And we're back. Look at that. Some nice purses in there.
That's a cute purse.
Back from Texas. What's up, Pete? Thanks, man. Thanks very, very, very much. We were in Texas last week, and that was impossible to do a live feed from. It's a little bit misadjusted. All right. I got to get back into it. This is exciting stuff. I'm gonna jump right into it. You and Edie do your thing right there, and I'm gonna jump into it and say, Jake, you can start the podcast right now. There's a whole spiel I do in the beginning. So if you're coming in and you know the spiel already, it's like when the teacher tells you to take out your notebook and your pencil, and you already know because you already paid attention and read what was on the board. So you can go ahead and just say hi to your friends, and I'm just going to tell people that are new what in the world they're tuning into, right? Because I realize that there's a lot of, for those of you that don't know, the responses that I get to these things and to my videos in general and my books, Teacher Class Off, now available on Amazon.com and everywhere book sales take place. There are so many different people that watch this, and from all over the world. So for those of you that are showing up to be a part of this community, it's not just teachers, but there's college professors, there are principals, there are vice principals, there are directors of special education, there are college students that have been told about this channel and our community from their teachers. There are people from all over the world, from China to South Africa to South Korea. I don't know that North Korea even has YouTube, but from Russia, from Germany, from South America. It's so unbelievable to me that as we're just sitting here in New Jersey in my laundry room, the dog on the floor, not so secret wife off here to my left, that's the community that we're engaging in. And I think when I don't want that to ever be lost on me, but I do forget the breadth of sort of the work that we are doing also. If you've not been here before, my name is CJ Reynolds. This is my YouTube channel, Real Rap With Reynolds. And what Real Rap With Reynolds really is a community of educators that are trying to help one another to be the teacher they always wanted to be, or the teacher that they were called to be. And so one of the ways that we do that is by meeting every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which isn't technically night, but it used to be at night, so we just didn't change the name, we just changed the time. It is a bunch of us showing up to try and be the best teacher we can be this week in school, because we know that Sundays are the most terrifying day of the week. If this is not enough for you, right? We don't just stop on Sundays. There's also mentoring calls that you could do. You can just go right to our website, realrapwithreynolds.com. This also gets turned into a podcast, so if you want to listen to it on your run or on your way to school. There's also a book, Teach Your Class Off, The Real Rap Guide to Teaching. There's a Facebook group, it's a Facebook group that I can't. What the heck's the name of our Facebook group? Teacher Talk.
Real Rap With Reynolds Teacher Talk.
Yes,
Community.
on Facebook. Yeah, and so that's kind of the gig right now. If you are new here, also, all you have to do is drop your question in the comment section, description area, whatever the heck that flaming by thing is.
Your word recall system is firing on full speed today.
I think it's partially because I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
I even said last night, that having off last week was kind of rad because I just felt like I was really excited to be here today. So, so I am excited to be here. I'm excited about my new shirt too. See this new shirt? Teach Your Class Off with the spray paint on it. Bam! I also think it's funny that it has my head on it. So it's like someone would wear my head right on their heart. Actually, your heart's over here, but on the opposite side of your heart. Right next to your heart. So, listen, are you ready? Because I have something I'm going to say otherwise.
Yeah, go for it.
I want to just... I do this sometimes, but I want to do it again because I like doing it. I want to publicly thank Edie, my helper from Texas, from southern West Texas. I mean, like it's hot in the winter, Texas. Edie, when we were in Texas last week, so we were in New Mexico, we drove like an hour and a half or whatever to Lubbock, Texas. Edie drove 3 hours to meet us, and she and her brother John and us got to go out to lunch. Another viewer, Stormy, drove, I don't know, what is not very far to them apparently, but was an hour and a half.
Everything's an hour, like when you're
in Texas.
When you're outside,
yeah.
like
in Philly, everything's 20 minutes away. In Texas, it's like everything's like, oh, Target's only an hour and a half. Let's go. And I'm like, what? Like, are we planning a day out? So I just want to thank Edie not only for just like driving and meeting us, but just for like all the stuff that she helps us do. Like, so when you guys submit questions, they go to Edie in Texas, and then Edie sends them to my wife, and then my wife pulls them up because Edie makes everything nice and neat on a Google document so that we actually understand what's going on. So yeah, I just wanted to thank her because she is an amazing human being, and I don't say it enough. So just thinking about that. What do you got, buddy?
Okay. Our first question, we're piecing it together because it comes from Mr. James Pete.
Mr. James Pete.
So I'm going to read the first part as we, yeah. Okay, so Mr. James Pete is asking, okay, a fourth grader. She is brilliant, doesn't do a single thing as far as homework because her family has never supported her. I've dropped the hammer on her. I've treated with kindness, and I'm starting to get some nibbles. I'm not giving up on her at any point. I know that some kids earn the right to have their teacher to move on, but not her. Thoughts on how to dance around her, to trick her, to get her to get the work done while she's still at the age in which habits have yet to form who she is to become. Woo!
Is that, wait, wasn't there?
I think that's it.
Okay, got it.
That's the end. Mr. James
thinking.
Pete, that's it. That's
I really feel like, I hope John Lopez is here. I feel like John Lopez could absolutely speak to this, and would have like a really good answer. I'm thinking two things. One is it's trying stuff like what you're doing, right? It's constantly trying to see what is going to get a kid on the hook, right? It's like when you go fishing. So I'm told. I haven't fished since I was like 14 years old. But like when you're fishing, if you use a certain type of bait and you're not catching anything, you don't just sit there with that type of bait in the water all day, right? If you try like cheese, I don't know, try a worm, which always, that's part of the reason I don't fish, because it just seemed mean to hurt the worms. And then it's like, it's a sport, I guess, but like it's like throwing a football at the back of someone's head and telling them that this is a sport. So if that doesn't work, you try a lure. If that doesn't work, you try something else. And so there's all these different things until you realize that like, oh, the catfish in this area eat this. Like the bass in this area, the trout in this area, like this. So it's trying to find that bait that's going to kind of like lure children in. And I know that talking about luring children in is just creepy and weird to begin with. But
it can sound creepy.
It sounds creepy and weird. We're doing it for the kids.
Through the lens that you're
doing
it.
For the best of the kids. I think, I would do two things. One is just keep trying a lot of stuff, finding out more and more about that child, and then trying to bring some of those ideas, some of those interests into the classroom. And then it is about creating ownership in the classroom. I think it's like, well, hey, I really need your help. Like, you're really smart. You're brilliant. And I take a really long time to alphabetize my papers. I take a long time to grade this thing. I take a long time to, would you mind helping me out by cleaning my board for me? Or I think kids always love that stuff. And I remember like being that age and remembering like loving when I got to grade something, when I got to put stickers on just the papers with the hundreds, when I got to, do any number of things like clap erasers outside. Man, I get to go outside like all by myself and clap erasers is amazing. But it brought a level of ownership. And I've done this before with students, and it really helps and it really works. I think the other thing is, like, Jim, it's about remembering that this is a long game. And that what you're doing now might just be planting seeds within a kid's mind or in their heart. And that you might not see the repercussions of what you're doing. But, I mean, how many of you on here remember a fourth grade teacher and how they impacted you? And how many of your fourth grade teachers really knew the impact that they had on you? So what you're doing this year, you might not even see the result of it. But, I've had kids that like when they go to 10th grade and they don't like the teacher, or they don't like, a teacher in general, or they're just don't get to be in my class anymore, that they hate that. And I'm not the only one. Like my friend Cho would still get like she would get just kids that would come back from like next year's science class to her science class and be like, yo, they taught this today, I really don't understand it, can you break it down, because you always did this thing. And you're like, damn, I didn't even know you liked my class, I didn't even know you liked me. And I think that that is really worth remembering, is you're playing the long game. So when she's in 5th grade, when she's in 6th grade, when she's in 8th grade, and you show up to her 8th grade graduation, like it's playing that long game. And I think too many of us forget that because we feel pressed, especially in a time of virtual learning. I see my students twice a week, and that's just not enough. So I have to, like, when I know someone's not growing at the rate they should be, I know that I got to keep on it, keep loving them, keep caring about them. You're never giving up, but that the results might not come until later. What you got?
Okay, KAC27 is asking, what do you do if a student proclaims their love for you? He is a troubled kid, and other teachers don't really like him. He said he thinks I am beautiful, and he doesn't care that I am married. He is in love with me. I am a new teacher, and I don't want to get him in trouble again. Oh, that's a great question.
That's an awesome question.
But difficult position to be in.
That's really awful. Like, it's just, it's tough. Because, look, I mean, kids can love you. Kids can even just be like you or be smitten with you, right? And this has happened to me any number of times. But, you know, there's a couple things that I do. Is that, one, I think I'm going to put a number of things out there. You know your situation best. So maybe go with the spirit of what I'm saying and not exactly what I'm saying. Like, not everything fits that you try on, so don't wear anything that I'm giving you that doesn't fit. I mean, that's the best metaphor. That's a pretty good metaphor.
Yeah, I liked it.
Thanks. I think, like, when dealing with stuff like that, it's important to let someone know, but it's important to let the right person know. So, right, like if they keep getting in trouble and they don't get along with the assistant principal, maybe that's not the person to go to. Maybe look for the social worker, the counselor, another teacher that they're involved with. But like, you definitely want to note, have somebody else in this that knows that, hey, this thing happened, and I just want to note that this happened. Like, I don't want to keep it in hiding, because let's say somebody goes too far. Let's say like, and I'm not one to play the fear card usually. Let's say some kid, I don't know, they bring you flowers at your house, they try and kiss you, like, I don't know, they tell everyone they love you in the middle of a song at the talent show. I don't know, whatever weird things kids do. It's important to let someone know. I would also, if I was going to have a conversation with the student, I would do it with another adult present. And I would let whoever I tell know also, look, this is hard for me to bring to someone, because there's no fear on my part, except for the fact that I don't want the student to get hurt again. I don't want them to get in trouble again, especially for trying to be vulnerable. I mean, essentially, right? Like, a kid is being vulnerable with you, and now you got to tell somebody, and that's always awkward. I would let students know when I have to tell things that they don't want me to tell, right? So someone's gotten abused by their parent, someone was hurt by someone was like, there was just something that happened that's sensitive, kid shares it with you, and now you got to go tell somebody. I let them know that I tell, one, because I'm a mandated reporter, right? I have to legally. The second thing is that I care for you so much that this isn't something I could keep to myself, right? I know that you don't want the help, but it's like the equivalent to, like, you're hurt. I want to make sure that you get the help that you need. The other thing is, you know, I handle things with jokes a lot of times. So like, I would say, like, if someone said that to me, it would be like, yo, you're trying to break up my marriage. Like, what are you trying to do right now? Like, you know, like, you see my kids? You want my kids to grow up in a broken household? No way. Or, you know, something to the effect of, like, especially when I taught girls, I would talk about my wife all the time. Because I remember teaching in Camden, and I remember I had just turned 30. And a young woman comes in the class that day, and she goes, "Oh, Mr. Reynolds, it was your birthday? Like, how old are you?" And I said, I just turned 30. And she was like, oh, that's awesome. My boyfriend just turned 30 this year too. And I was like, no, that's wrong.
I remember
Prison. Like, it was like, it was a mess. So if not prison, counseling, but it was just, it shocked me. So it was like, now I feel like when I thought girls liked me, it was like, oh, because I am the age of dudes you date. So it became like me talking about my wife all the time in a way that was like, I love my wife so much. We do all this together. This is what our date night was like. This is how we, my wife always says stuff like that too. Or like, yeah, my wife packed my lunch for me. She does it every single day. I love it so much. I'm so thankful that she does it. And then having kids, what you're doing is sort of modeling what a really great relationship looks like. And that, like that, and then I would talk to kids about like, oh, I really hope you find someone someday that will like, keep the air on in the car even though they're already cold, right? Because you're hot. They will get up early and make you coffee, not because they had to get up early to go to work also, but just because they love you and they want to do it also. Someone that would have a birthday party for you like that one day. It's really creating this idea that like you're kind of like speaking to them without saying, I cannot be in love with you or this would never work out, like not rationalizing like that. What you're doing is putting a spotlight on this individual so much and this relationship and how important it is to your soul that, and how wonderful your life is, that it doesn't even necessarily, in my experience, create a jealousy. It just creates like a, oh, well, like that's unavailable. Or I can't do anything about that. Or like, I don't know. It's something in that has always kind of worked for me.
Did you talk about the idea of like, because I wasn't fully listening, that the possibility that a student is confusing care for their educational, right? Like they're misconstruing the teacher's care, right? You care for your students, but I think when children have a lack of love in their life or experience, they're going to misconstrue what mentorship and caring for a child
You're 100% right.
is about.
It's the actor.
I think explaining that to the student, it could be a great way to just start there and then keep talking about your life and your husband.
You could, but I would have that conversation with someone else, because you don't want to have that conversation by yourself. I'm just thinking of I was listening to a podcast with this actor Frank Grillo on it, and Frank Grillo said that growing up he was kind of a dad junkie because his dad was an alcoholic, was never around, and so he was always kind of looking for that dad energy from somewhere. And I know that I grew up doing the same thing. I had a stepdad that I had a tumultuous relationship with. I had a father that died when I was 4. So like I would go to friends' houses and like if their dad was real cool, I'd be like always asking him what he was doing. And like if they showed me any level of attention, I was like that was like hypnotizing to me. But as you know, that kind of love can also, or attention, right, or care, can often be misconstrued as someone really likes me, and or I'm in love with them, and it's like, no, that's not what that was. And this is a thing that scares teachers all the time, right? Like we're always talking about this, where teachers don't want to get close to students because they're afraid something like this is going to happen. And I just also just want to assure teachers that like it doesn't happen all the time. Like it's happened very, very few times in my life where someone is like outwardly like showed me a level of care that I was like, oh, you got the wrong idea, because I've learned to manage it better now. Yeah, I really wonder what other people are saying about that too. Like people that like, for those of you that have had a student like express a level of care or love to you, like how have you handled that? Because I think that there are very clinical ways to handle it. And I'm going to be finished talking about this in a second. I don't want to just go on and on and on. But like there are, what I'm trying to get away from is, in all the things that we're doing here, gang, it's like there are very like clinical ways to deal with that, to like call the parents, to tell the office, to write the kid up, to make a note of it, because if something happens, like I get all that. That all makes sense too, and I'm not saying it's wrong. But when we're talking about people's hearts, it's just a different level of care. There has to be something else there that like you can't just take something away without replacing it with something else. And I think that is what's going to help children, especially if they are coming from a house that doesn't give them that love. You showed them that love, and then they were like, damn, I love you. And it's like, nah, bro, you just got it twisted. Like, it's just got lost in translation. Like, let's figure this out, and then, hopefully things can still be good.
I just want to say, because we're interested, Little Space Freckles, she's at a Tony Robbins seminar. She's like, but I took a break to come be with my fam.
Yo, it's one of my dreams, girl.
That's what I said. Let us know how it goes.
I would love to go to a Tony Robbins thing, man.
Jealous. Okay, back to questions. John Lopez is asking, if you had the chance to improve virtual learning, what would it be and why? Great question.
If I had a chance to improve virtual learning. Man, that's a good question. Because what I'm thinking of, John, is what many teachers are probably thinking of is like, I feel like I'm pulling out. This is why I'm stuck. Like, I literally had to stop for a second and think about this because I feel like I'm stuck because I'm doing a million things that I think are beneficial to students, that I think I'm being intuitive, I'm listening to kids, I'm trying to give them what they want, I'm trying to give them what they need, trying to take 80-minute lesson, boil it down to 40 minutes. I'm trying to use sound effects, use soundboards, use props, pull out all the stops, do all kinds of weird stuff that I've never done before, use different backgrounds. I'm just doing stuff, anything I can to get people's attention. And some days it just doesn't work. Like, nothing works. Like, nothing I'm doing. Some kids will bite, and sometimes that brings other people in. So a fun thing I did the other day was, just off the top of my head, I was starting class, and I was like, I always say, like, welcome to the students when they come in. I say something to the effect of, like, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Literature 1. I am your host, Mr. Reynolds, and it's my co-host, Miss Kayla. Kayla, how you doing today? And and Kayla bought into it, and she said something as well. And then I said, all right, first thing we're going to do today is we're going to go right over to my man Timir for the weather. Timir, what's happening out there in our crazy skies? And for whatever reason, Timir goes, it's cold today, and there's going to be a partial, chance of a shower. He goes with it also. All right, we're going over to my man Lameek for sports. Lameek, what's going on with the Eagles? And then Lameek doesn't watch sports, so he gives like some fake sports report that's completely ridiculous. And it really worked. Like, and then a couple of other kids, I could see them like laughing or at least like stop gaming and pay attention for a little bit. But it is, I think nothing is really working for everyone, and it's aggravating. So I think if I was going to improve virtual learning, it wouldn't actually be almost anything about virtual learning, except if I was going to change virtual learning, I think classes should be shorter, just get to the point, and I think that asynchronous learning should be more part of the equation than synchronous learning, because learning at the same time as everyone is very, very difficult. I have many, many students that are learning in a bedroom at a kitchen table with 4 or 5 other siblings. There's a lot going on in the house, and if they could just do the work at night, it would be better. But I really think it is figuring out a way to help students' social, emotional needs. My gut tells me that the kids that aren't doing work aren't just trying to get out of it. They're not just bored. They're not just anything. There's so much happening in the world right now that it is very hard to feel like what we're doing online is actually important. When there is tragedy in your neighborhood, when there's the current election, I've talked about this before, when there are hurricanes and fires and all this stuff like that's just constantly hitting you in the face on the news, COVID and vaccines and not vaccines, and are we going to turn into zombies like in I Am Legend after we take the vaccine? I don't know, but like, I just think that folks discount those things, and sometimes just because they don't know, they just go, oh no, that's not bothering the kids. I just think that all of this is too much. The idea of the holidays, right? Like every time the holidays come up, there's some kid that doesn't want to go home for vacation because they don't want to be with their family, or they know they don't have a good Thanksgiving coming, or something along those lines. So that's what I'm just thinking about. And so I think it would be more attention on building kids' confidence, on letting them know that they could do it, and on showing kids an expression of care that would know that this is it's all going to be like, let's work on your heart, and then we can start working on your head.
I think that's so true for almost every situation with students. It's always the social and emotional care that's like, it's the answer that people don't want for things in education, I think, a lot of times, but I think it's because it's a slow, long process.
Yes.
And it's not a clear direction.
Yep.
But it is always the answer.
But the dudes that I'm on, so like I had a call the other night with a mom, and I'm not going to tell any, detailed information, but like what we talked about, like her student wasn't doing well, and what we talked about, I was like, dang, like I didn't know that the kid was going through all this stuff, like because you're virtual, you just can't connect. I can try, and I do, like I put kids in breakout rooms, I talk to them during different periods and stuff like that, but like it's very hard to really get all the info that you usually have, and it just makes you get it. It's like, oh dang, like that's why you're not doing well in class, because you're fighting demons that I didn't even know about. What you got, buddy?
Okay, Rosanna Martinez is asking, I am a brand new teacher with no previous resources.
Bring it.
I searched the internet for lesson plans but can't find quite what I need. What website do you recommend for reliable lesson plans?
So let's do this. I'm going to tell you two things, Rosanna. Reminds me of that song. I'm sure that you get that all the time. But there's two things that I would say. One, can anyone, if you're not paying attention right now, I'm going to ask you to pay attention to me real quick because we're going to help somebody out real quick. Can you put in the chat any websites that you use that are free, right? So not like Teachers Pay Teachers is fine, but when you're a new teacher and you are starting from zero, we all know that you don't have any, like you don't have, that's an extra expense. So what do you know that's free that can help? I would say New York Times is one of my jams. I really am liking Edpuzzle this year, and I think Verizon. If you go on Verizon's website, they just like Google something with regards to like Verizon and lesson plans, and they have a bunch of free resources on there as well. And then I think an oldie but a goodie is Harry Wong's website, teachers.net. You know it's old if it's a .net, and so that is a really good site too. And then Rosanna, you should get a whole bunch of recommendations right now, but go into our Facebook group, Real Rap With Reynolds Teacher Talk on Facebook. And if you don't have a Facebook account, it's like worth getting just to do this, and put that in the comment section in there, and you will get a flood of answers from people. So that's what I would tell you. What you got? I'm gonna keep drinking out of my mug, my new mug here.
Go for it.
Teaching is a communal activity mug.
Mm-hmm. AB is asking, Mr. Reynolds, will you be a teacher in the next 20 years, or do you plan on being a public speaker or principal, or keep writing books? Where do you see yourself in 20 years?
So
that's like the question of all questions.
It is. So I will be old, real old in 20. I'll be 40. So I just turned 44 the other day. I will be 64.
Holy heck! I can't even imagine.
But
I mean, I know we all get there, but
it's gonna be wild. Anyway, here's what I'm learning. One, teaching to me. Let's go a little bit woo woo for a second.
I missed
to me.
a question. I skipped over someone. Sorry.
Okay, we'll get back to them in just a moment. So if your question just got skipped, don't fret. We will get back to you. Teaching to me is a calling. It's not something that I ever wanted to do. It's something that I felt like I was led to do, right? And so in my life, that's how I roll. The reason I live in the neighborhood that I live in, and I don't talk about this very often, but it's because I moved here with an intentional community of individuals to live in a neighborhood that we thought needed good neighbors. The reason I teach in the schools that I teach in is because I feel like they might need someone with some of the weird skills that I have, and stick it out there. It's the reason I stay in the schools that I teach in, even when it gets hard. It is the reason that like I got married. It's the reason I had kids. It's the reason I do most of the stuff that I do. Is like I didn't write a book because I ever wanted to write a book. I write a book because I felt like that was what I was called to do next. So that being the case, I'm not always sure where I'm going to be called to next. I just kind of like walk forward in faith and then hope that path will open up to me. I will say though that recently we've had a lot of, and one day, let me just say this. Our school year is so crazy, and I can't even talk about it, right? Because it's like I don't want to like breach any sort of confidentiality situation. But one day I will be able to talk about this school year, and people won't believe my last, I'll say 2 years in my school.
Even 3.
And
if
some
you
of that
do
I've talked about. Some of it is just like students that have gotten killed, kids that have gotten sick, like things that like that kind of thing. But on like a school level, crazy. One of the things that's really coming to light to me is that you can have the greatest teachers in the world in your school, but it won't run right if it's not correct top down. So I used to think, I really, really love any kind of grassroots movement. I really love the idea of like me and my friends, we're gonna, one of the things we do is it's now called guerrilla gardening, but we used to call it vigilante gardening, where we would like go to houses that were beat up on the block and just make them look nice. We would just like cut the grass edge, cut the hedges, clean up trash. We'd start community gardens. We would like seed bomb all around our neighborhood, or just plant flowers in random places and stuff. Like do all kinds of stuff like that, right? But it's not sustainable, right? Like like one of the things I've learned is it's not sustainable unless you on some kind of larger scale can affect change in policy, procedure, or like just speak to the masses. And so what I'm realizing as an educator and with the skill set that I have is that if every year I have 130 students, something like that, right? If every year I'm only able to affect that amount, or let's just say the 500 kids that exist in my school, that helps those individuals. But if I'm speaking to schools, if I'm going to colleges, if I'm writing books, if I'm doing this kind of thing, my hope is that I am sharing what I have. I am being an answer to prayer in some way for other people, that they can then go and teach their students and affect change in their classrooms. And like the number of people that I get told that like are working at a college and they show my videos to their students, right? Like becoming a resource like that like buying my book for the new teachers in their school because they know that it's going to help them in some way. That to me seems like a way to really, really affect change in a way that is global. And that is something that like I'm thinking about and praying about and seeing if that is what is next for me. But that feels like the move. So we'll see. Time will tell. But that's where it comes from. Who do we skip?
Miss Kaiser, I'm sorry.
I'm going to give a good answer for this question.
She says, hi from Germany. I was wondering if you have any experience or opinion on having a dog in your classroom. I teach 2nd grade, and I'm considering getting a license for my golden retriever. I'm not a teacher, but I'm going to say yes.
I'm going to say yes right now. Yeah, of course you should. I can't even believe you just even asked us that question. But
So-
you're a very responsible human being, and you did.
Edie put a sidebar in there, and she said when I taught science, we had a python and a rabbit. She's like,
Those two things do not get. I feel like the python would just be looking at the rabbit all the time, longing.
it's not really the same thing, but the
What's
kids
up?
held them and stuff and loved them.
A pen? Just a regular pen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
Marley needs a pen.
We interrupted this broadcast for a pen.
Miss Kaiser from Germany is wondering if she should get a license so that her golden retriever could be in her 2nd grade classroom all day.
What do you
should
think?
she do it?
Yeah.
Can you, right? Like that would be
so awesome.
that would be amazing. I think that's a great idea.
Do it.
So when we have Saturday school, something we hold like once a month at our school, my friend Taz used to bring in his Great Dane all the time, and it mesmerized kids. And as a matter of fact, I've never seen anything calm children like babies and dogs. Not just an animal either, but like having a dog in the classroom. Like people would bring their dogs all the time, and the kids were just like, they immediately came in, and if they were talking or they were loud or they were aggressive, you see a baby or a dog and you're just like, because babies and dogs are like fires and the ocean. They are like a few things in this life that you can just gaze at for a long time, and it becomes not an awkward silence between you and the person next to you, because you're just like,
Gosh, that would help with like autistic
A million
kids,
things.
anxiety.
Who's I
would
forget her
be
real
an
name.
amazing if we
5'1"
do it.
teacher. Remember after the shooting in Florida, I was talking to her, and she said they got dogs in their school that just walked around because it
Yeah,
was
after
helped
that
social
shooting.
emotional needs for kids. Yeah,
Amazing. Do it. If you
that was a
can do
great question.
it.
Let's get a dog for my classroom now.
Okay. you could take on.
Technically, I mean, there is a dog in my classroom right now, but
Not really helping any students, but yeah. Okay, Classroom Confidential is asking, a third of my students aren't handing in work. Emails to their parents and conferences haven't worked. They are just checked out. Thoughts on encouraging them to be accountable to themselves, if not to me?
All right, this is a great question. I love this question all the time.
Can I just say, because I feel like was it Edtopia? I don't know.
Yeah,
One of those
No, it was Edtopia.
people. They in the beginning of virtual learning, they posted an article that was really interesting and I just think it's so smart and people aren't taking this into account. That what we're asking kids to do online, like even your students, and even as easy as you make your class, or as simplified as you've made your class,
Thank you for changing that word.
You're welcome. That the kids just don't have the executive functioning like ability to even do what's being asked of them. Like, it's scientifically sound that they don't have that ability yet. Like, it's not developed. It's hard enough for teachers to do what is being asked, to have the executive functioning to match the needs that are being asked of them. That how can we expect these students to do that when cognitively, like, that hasn't even developed yet fully for them?
Yep. It makes me think of...
that drives me nuts that that's not being taken into consideration.
Remember the I Love Lucy episode when she was like, I think they were like, it was like a chocolate factory or cordial cherries or something like that.
Oh, yes.
They're coming down and she was putting them away, and then it was going too fast, so she had to start eating them. Then she was like putting them in her dress. That's what the school year feels like to me. At some point, you're just going to go, the hell with it. I'm not doing it. I think that's part of where kids are coming from. I think that what we're seeing right now in our school and at some of the schools I'm talking to folks from is that we thought all these students grow up with technology, so of course they can use technology, but they don't. They know how to swipe. They don't know how to interact with an interface. They don't know how to read a website. They don't know how to navigate a website. They know how to swipe left, right. They know how to double tap. They know how to put their thumbprint on something, do facial recognition so they can download whatever they want. And then they play games that are slightly intuitive, and if the game's not intuitive enough, they don't play it. I think that's part of it. I think the big thing, and this really works in school as well, but the thing with this is, what I'm going to say is time consuming, and it really takes a level of care that is going to be like, is a little bit extra. I think that talking to students about what they're choosing to do now is only important if you can tie it into what they want later. So whatever that is, right? So like you could have fourth graders and it's like, what's your goal here? Is your goal to pass the year? Is your goal to be a doctor? Is your goal to be a carpenter? Is your goal to be a YouTuber? Whatever it is reverse engineering what students want to be already. So, or helping them to see how what they're doing might be damaging. So in the past, let's say I have a student who I had a student once years and years ago that I'm trying to think of anyone recent, that lived at home with mom. Excuse me. Mom was in an abusive relationship with a new boyfriend. The kid hated the boyfriend. He's a freshman in high school. He has 3 little sisters, and they receive part of the brunt of this as well. He is 14 years old, 15 years old, so he can leave the house when he kind of wants and doesn't have to deal with it as much. He is completely failing the year and is just chalking every single assignment, turning nothing in. So I talked to him about the idea that, well, what if, bro, like, what do you want to be one day? And so he talks about that. And I say, do you realize that if you really lived up to that, if you were that, you would be able to have your own apartment, have extra income, you'd be able to own a car, and then when your 3 sisters, who are significantly younger than you are, wanted to not be at home that weekend, needed a place to stay, or they needed a new legal caregiver, you could be that place. Your mom doesn't have money because the boyfriend's spending it all on weed all the time, and they want to get a job, they need braces, they want to just get their hair done. You can do that. You can be the blessing for someone else, right? You can literally, as I just said, you can literally be the answer to somebody else's prayers without having to hustle, without having to scrounge, without having to really sacrifice what you have. So what you're doing right now is when you don't do work, because it is a simple pyramid situation, it is a step process. You do well in high school, even if you don't like it, it's part of a game. That allows you to play the game and to do well in college. To have the ability to do well in college, to make the money to be able to do it in college, to not have student debt when you're done, then you can get the job that you want, you can live the life that you dream, and you can bless your family. Because right now what you're saying, what you're doing is you're failing. And when you fail, what's going to happen is you're going to end up living in the basement next to your mom's Christmas decorations, and you're going to have to listen to this nonsense because if it's not this boyfriend, it's going to be another boyfriend. And then what is the example you're giving to your 3 younger sisters? Because now they're watching their older brother who just chalked it and didn't do anything, lives in the basement next to the Christmas decorations, and is like twirling a sign in front of the local tax place as a job because he did not play the game of high school. School is not always something that kids are feeling intrinsically rewarded by. They need extrinsic rewards. And so sometimes when we can tie this to something they want to do in the future, that is something that might be far off, but we can trace back the steps and say, bro, it really starts here, right? And not in some kind of like state testy kind of way. I'm talking about real life education, and playing the game of life gets you there. That can change the way kids look at stuff. It can change the way that you can say, do you want to buy your mom a house one day? Or at least be able to pay her rent? Would you like to do that? Would you like to be able to get your mom a car? You can't do that if you're working full-time at Amazon. And I realize that it's dope to make $15 an hour straight away right out of high school, and that feels like a lot of money, but it's not when you're older. That's a lot of money to like live in an apartment you share with someone, or as an extra job. But you can't work full-time at Best Buy as an adult and like make enough money to do what you're talking about doing. You can work those jobs and be completely happy and content, and that's fine if that's what you want. But I'm talking about wants over needs. And right now, like, this is something you have to think about. And so that's what I really talk to kids about. I don't care how old they are. I talk to my own children that way. And they have zero vision of like what the future really holds for them. But it's important to do that for kids. Plug them in. Here, hold on. Got it.
Just put it right
Little
there.
pit stop here.
Look at this all like this.
This is
outlet.
the most ridiculous situation we have here. All right, let's go.
Okay, next question is from Sophie Crunch. Pre-service teacher here, doing my first twice a week placement in February, and I have to do 4 lessons / lesson plans. I've never made one before, let alone in a class. Any tips?
I would say this. 1, don't recreate the wheel. So Sophie, look things up online if you need to look things up online, right? You get no extra credit. Teachers get no extra credit for coming up with something on their own. But what you can do is what I talk about in my book, Teacher Class Solve, The Real Rap Guide to Teaching. I talk about a lot is this idea of sprinkling magic, and I think this is worth going back to and looking at again. Sprinkling the magic means that, so the other day for my birthday, my wife makes me this incredible cake. And at its core, it's just a cake, right? She bought like Duncan Hines like cake mix. I don't know, what was the chocolate cake? Just plain chocolate cake?
Yeah, fudgy chocolate
So it was
cake.
that, and then it was a layer of brownie, and then it was a layer of chocolate cake on top of that. In the middle was some kind of like chocolate.
Well, it was all boxed cake, but I made my own buttercream frosting, like chocolate frosting.
Is that what was in between the layers?
Yeah.
And then it was on the top, right,
Yeah.
too? That's what you iced it with. And then you like shaved chocolate on the top of it. That looked remarkable. And then like it was on a nice platter and it had beautiful candles. It was a box cake. You know what I mean? Like, so
Here's
like,
my cake.
like there it is.
I made
It was freaking beautiful. The lesson there, I think, is lesson plans are boxed cake. Just buy the boxed cake. Get the boxed cake from somewhere. And then what your job as the educator to do is to sprinkle magic on the top of that boxed cake. And the way that you do that is by knowing your students, and if you don't know them yet, having a sense of like, what does it really mean to be in 4th grade in 2020? Not in 1987 when, you know, like when I was in 4th grade, 87, yeah. It is like, it is looking at who students really are now and then trying to make this something that everyone's going to like. So it's like, and that can be like substituting examples for examples that the students are going to know. It's about, once you get to know your students, it's about saying like, okay, I can look at this lesson plan, but how do I make this into something that's more tactile, because that's this period that I have right now. And then the next period is more like quiet, sustained workers that can just work on their own. This next class is a group that like group work is their jam. So it's about figuring that piece out, which you won't know until you really meet your students. But I really feel like it is just getting the lesson plan. Look up great lesson plan for learning your times tables. It's, or looking at resources that already exist, or like I said, going to our Facebook group, Rap With Reynolds Teacher Talk, and becoming a part of that, seeing what other people are doing, and then using it, but sprinkling your own magic on it, right? A house is a house, but what makes a house into a home really feels like it's the extra stuff you do. It's the color of the paint. It's the style of the furniture. And what does all this furniture that I did not make myself, pulled all together in the right order, makes it feel like magic. That's what sprinkling the magic is. A guitar is a guitar, but what are you doing with it is the thing. I didn't make my own drum set ever, but I can rock a set of drums. But without having ever like made a drum in my life. So that's what I'm thinking of.
Okay, next question comes from Chet Hinton. Mr. Reynolds, I just started a school as a IA, and I am terrified to make a mistake. I think my fear of messing up is keeping me from taking any chances. Do you have any advice?
Yes. My question to you is this. What is the worst thing that could happen? You will not catch on fire, right? And so I think that teaching is a confidence game. It is more a confidence game than almost anything else. And the way that we gain confidence is two ways. Is one, by playing to our strengths. So not thinking about like, I try to get better at stuff that I'm not really good at, but the way that I really get better at it is by systematizing it, right? So like, I've learned that that's a strength of mine, is like, my wife and I just had a conversation about this morning. I am extremely systematic, like extremely scientific. When I wake up in the morning routine is basically the same thing every day. When I exercise, I run the same friggin' route every single time. Like, because I like the feel of that routine for me. That works for me. So what I have to do is figure out how does that routine help me to get all the other things in line, right? So like I'm terrible at answering emails, but if I make myself on my schedule at 2 p.m. to 2:20 every day, it's at least touch the emails, right? I have to do it for just 20 minutes. That's it. It creates time and space to do the email, and then that's better. So it is playing to your strengths, number one, and not worrying about things that you can't change in yourself, right? So like I cannot change the fact that like I like using humor for everything. Like I can't be a different way. Like it's just not who I am. I have a very hard time keeping a quiet classroom, and it's not because it's unruly all the time. It's because it's just like the stuff that I do makes noise. Like it incites excitement, and so it is, or the fact that I do weird stuff. Like I do weird, silly things. John Lopez sent me a giant thing of glitter. John Lopez sent me a whole bunch of stuff the other day, but like sent me a giant thing of glitter.
John Lopez sent us too much candy that I'm going to probably eat.
Yes.
Thanks, John.
So I love taking glitter and I just sprinkle it on kids' desks when I walk by if they're doing a good job. Like I'm sprinkling magic around. And that's just funny to me, right? But if you're not that way, you're not going to be that teacher. So it's playing into who you are. I think the other thing is you have to get good at failing and smile and dancing with it. As Freckles would tell you, as Tony Robbins says, is learning to dance with the fear. So you're not letting it own you. It's not paralyzing you. You're moving with it. You're almost anticipating it. And one of the things I think about, I think this was Tim Kennedy said this, that you want to fail fast, right? The goal is to fail as quickly as possible. If this isn't right, like if I'm driving down the road and I'm not sure I'm going the right way, I want to figure that out as fast as I can. So when I'm going the wrong way, I don't go slow and try and figure out if I'm going the wrong way. I haul ass because I'm looking for something that's like, oh yeah, clearly not the way we're supposed to be going. And then you pivot. And that's what school's going to be like. You will never have school down 100%, right? Like dudes like that are in here that are really great teachers. You all know that, like, even though you've been teaching for 20, 30 years and you thought you were going to have it down, you never had a kid like this. You never had a year like this year, like 2020 has been, that you've ever taught in. You've never had a certain parent like the one that showed up. Every once in a while, there are these variables that come up that you can't plan for. So what you do as a teacher is not just get good and then you're good, right? You're learning to pivot. It's like a football game, right? Like it's like you're always kind of moving and pivoting and on the move. And sometimes a play wins, and sometimes a play that you thought was surefire fails, but you get better at that. So even here's my encouragement. Even if you don't feel that right now, I'm telling you, it shows up. Just keep going. So even when something fails and it hurts your stomach and you go home and you drink an entire bottle of wine, you're not sure that you ever want to do this again. No, just remember, it all works out. You just keep going and you will get better at it, I promise. What you got?
Oh, I wasn't prepared. Sorry. Scrolling.
That's all right.
Okay, Jamie Perez is asking, it's been a crazy time for students, and I think that a lot of them are really struggling to find meaning in what they are doing in school. How do you deal with this reality with your kids?
I kind of spoke to this a little bit earlier, but I think it's about, for me, it's explaining why we're doing something. It's explaining the rationale behind doing something. It's explaining how this leads to something later in their life that's actually important to them. So like school might not be important, but like owning a business might be, or being successful in helping take care of your mom, or, paying, taking care of your grandmom later because she took care of you when you were a kid. All those things are important. And I think one of the things I try and show students is like almost creating a sense of like, guys, look, it's not every day you show up and there's all this work and all this things going on. It is simple and to the point every day. Every week you can get this many points, we'll say. Like I've had to like incentivize everything by points this year, which is not what I want to do, but it's like the only thing that's working right now. So it's like, here's your due now, it's worth this many points. Here's your journal entry, it's worth this many points. Here's the thing we're going to do before we read, pre-reading, whatever activity that's worth this many points. Here's the ed puzzle, the Kahoot, the flip grid, the reading lesson, whatever it is. These are all the points. These points, you have this many a week. After the end of the week, this many weeks, you have the end of the trimester, and it's here we are. By keeping some sort of tracker, or one of the things we're going to start doing after break here is, so after Thanksgiving break here in the U.S., is sending students home with forms that they have to like every week look at what was that they didn't hand in that week, look at their current grade, and if they're not passing, they have to get something signed by a parent. And that's really just to create that communication so that the kid knows, like they're checking in. I don't think kids check their grades enough. Some kids do it like obsessively, and then other students are like, yo, what? I have a 20? Like I didn't know that. Like I did the work. And it's like, yeah, but you cheated and you hand in terrible work. Like if none of the answers are right, I can't give you credit for it. It's about doing some of those things, I think, that are like gonna help kids learn. Here's the other thing. Some kids just have to learn the hard way, right? Like they are going to do stuff that is they are going to play the system. They are sometimes lazy. They sometimes don't see the value in something, but I just refuse to shift course. It's like, this is the game, bro. Like if you want to not do work and then at the end of the trimester you're going to try and hit me up with the email with here's all the work that I missed during the trimester, it's like, no, it's due on time. Like I said, there's no late work. I've said it every single day. I don't do makeup work. I don't do extra credit at the end of the trimester. I don't do any of that stuff. So it's like sticking to your guns and having kids like with a level of grace. That's a whole nother conversation. But it is like having like staying true to what you're saying, and kids will figure it out.
All right, we're just going to do a few more.
Got it.
Erica F. is asking, feeling the burnout from report cards last week. Any tips on not feeling overwhelmed over final grades for the quarter and getting messages from students and parents about their grades?
Yeah. So Erica, some of the things that I do is One, I send home periodic emails letting parents know where their students are, right? I don't just wait for the other stuff. I also let parents know that my online gradebook is always up to date. If not on Wednesday, like have a day. Every Friday, by Friday afternoon, everything's up to date. All the grades are in there. It is creating spaces for students. So like I don't give extra credit at the end of the semester, but I do give extra credit projects intermittently throughout the trimester. So we run on 3 trimesters. So like when guys go, yo, I need extra credits, like, dude, I gave you the opportunity, right? But you didn't take it. Now we're at the end. There is no opportunity for that. Or the opportunity that's there isn't going to like skyrocket your grade 30 points so that you can pass. It's also creating like documenting those things so that parents know like, hey, look, there's nothing they can do now. Going forward though, know that I let them retake any test or quiz every Wednesday when they're, after school. They can come in, I have office hours from 8 to 8:45 every morning and from 4 to 4:45 every single afternoon. If they need office hours besides those times, all they have to do is email me. We can set up a time and space to be able to do that. Know that all my grades are always up to date. Let me ask you, mom or dad, what is something that you think your student would benefit from? What did they really struggle with this trimester? Let's look going forward, what's actually going to benefit them instead of looking back at what they should have done. Let's look forward at what they can do. It is, and then for you, I think it is, I don't do grades right up to the end of the marking period. My grades aren't due until December 3rd. They are stopping on Tuesday. Tuesday's it. I will not take any more work for this trimester as of Tuesday because there will be some late work that comes in, but that's going to be kids that were sick, kids that were not in school, kids that had computer issues. Like you keep space to be able to do, like take care of some of those loose ends, but my grades always stop about a week, if not 2 weeks before the end of the trimester. And then burnout for yourself, it is literally taking more space. I swear I cannot think of another job except for teaching where folks sort of reward themselves and their colleagues for burning themselves out, right? It is like a badge of honor. Like I worked 18 hours this week and I work every single weekend and I never take a day off. And it's like, I was in a meeting recently where I told people at school that I refuse to work outside of school hours anymore. I work from 8 to 4 every single day, and I have lunch from 12 to 12:40, and from 12 to 12:30 at least, I am taking time off, walking my dog, talking to my wife, making coffee, playing with my kids, doing Fortnite, watching a show with my children. I am taking those times off because what that does, and then I'm also practicing Sabbath every Saturday now. So like and for those of you that like, to me, what that is like taking a hard day off every Saturday where I'm not doing real Rap with Reynolds except for mentoring calls and I don't do anything for school. And what I'm finding is taking that breath, taking that space is really like rejuvenating me on a level that I can show up on Monday with an average lesson plan and feel great than show up with a great lesson plan and feel like crap. I'd rather go into school with an average lesson plan and be on 11 than go into school with a lesson plan that's on 11 and a feeling that feels like a 4. I just think that is always the move. You're going to have better conversations with parents, with students. You're going to have more grace for people. You're going to have more patience for people. You're going to not get as overwhelmed because you're feeding yourself so that you can expel that energy when you need it. What you got, buddy? Oh, you over here texting. Oh, you're in the chat? Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to drink some of my delicious water out of my new teacher class off.
Because Alex Q, I guess, apparently is a teacher in Finland, and Mr. James Pete's like, oh my gosh, I have a million questions. And I said, oh man, you don't even know what you walked into, Alex
Everybody
Q.
loves Finland.
Okay. These two we're going to kind of squish together, and then we've got one other one. So
let's do it.
I'm going to read both of them, and then you can answer.
I have one hair that is just not cooperating.
Okay, F. Weber is asking, I am in college and I want to be a SPED teacher. I am in a literature course and I am enjoying it. If I switch my major to English and get my license in grad school, could I still get hired? That's one. And then Logan is asking, would you recommend a uni student go into an education program when uncertain about what career path to take. I'm hesitant between that and sociology.
So,
They're there.
where's my battery? This isn't. I don't know if this is charging. It doesn't matter. We still have 20%, which is enough to get us through. I think, with regards to the first question, you can still get it. It's about getting certification, and so some schools, it depends on where you want to teach, right? Like some schools might take an emergency certification, which you can get very, very easily in most states. But it's like it's going to depend on where you live and what kind of school you're willing to teach at. So you could still go to grad school, but I also think, man, going to grad school and teaching for the first year, it can be really, really difficult. So just make sure that, like, I'm not saying it's impossible and that can't be done. It is about learning how to prioritize your time so that you can do that effectively. With regards to Logan's question, which is similar, which one would you take? Logan, I think it's going to come down to, like, that sounds like a question for like an advisor. I also think it comes down to, like, what is the real work you want to do, right? Like, so I teach and I love English and I teach English, but that's not the reason I do it. Like, if I'm honest with myself, like, I don't teach because I just love English.
I don't think anybody teaches for the pay.
No.
They all know. Everybody knows all the, like.
No, but some teachers
pitfalls.
teach because they like the subject matter. And
Yeah.
if you teach in a certain school and you teach Latin and you love Latin, like, my boys have to take Latin 4 years of it and they hate it, right? So if you just are there just because you love Latin, you're going to lose. If you're there because you find some value rather in Latin, because you care for students, because the kind of school that you're at has the kind of students that you want to speak to, or the kind of students that you want to influence or motivate or help succeed, that's got to be it. So I think it is, whether it's teaching or sociology, so if you're going to be like a social worker or something, it's like, what is the real impact that you want to have on society? And I think that's the question I would sit with. And then teaching, to me, what it really does is it gives me, and this sounds weird, it gives me access to children for hours and hours and hours, not an after school program or something like that. For hours, for years on top of years, it allows me to build relationships. And those relationships and that education, especially English, because I think there's a lot of value in English, of course, like learning to read, write, speak, and actively listen to folks. It's all the things I get to do in the English class that are going to help me to empower students to empower themselves to find success and to change the world. And so when we do that, that's my real mission, right? It's not teaching diagramming sentences. There's value in diagramming sentences. It's oddly therapeutic if you really like doing it. But it's, what do you really want to do? That's the question. And then reverse engineer that and then think, what's the best fit for me? Is it education? Is it something over here in sociology or whatever else you want to get involved in?
Okay, and
What you
then
got?
our last one is, what's that? Groom mentor? Goo.
I have no idea.
Okay, I'm going with goo. Goo something or other, and I'm sorry.
Gom mentor?
I'm really.
I don't know, man. We're terrible. Sorry.
Anyway, hi, I have one tricky one. In my substitute class, there is one kid who is mentally behind. How would you deal with it? He does only 3 hours a day and doesn't have friends, cries a lot. Any ideas? Oh. If you're around, can you tell us what age? I didn't even see this question there.
That's a great question. Let me say this. I think what kids need the most is someone that's not going to get frustrated. Someone that's going to stay the course. Someone that's not going to go, oh gosh, I've tried everything with this kid, the hell with it. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Pass them off to somebody else. Or let them just go to the next grade or whatever. That kids that, let's say this. I'll take it from this angle. I've had a lot of students in the past that have been depressed, that have had chronic depression, and they're really good dudes, but they just, like, their life circumstances on top of their mental health already, like something that's probably was like they were probably prone to depression already, but now mom can't pay the gas bill, mom can't pay the electric bill, I show up with dirty clothes to school, my dad doesn't care about me, but he lives 2 blocks away with his new family, but he never shows up for Christmas. I am a little bit of an awkward teenager, and now because of because I'm kind of a soft person.
Oh, and this child is 10.
Okay, so but this could still absolutely play into that. Because when I show up to school and it's awkward and someone makes fun of me, and now I just feel like even more like crap because they're just affirming how I already feel about myself. It's having students like that, and then some days are doing great, and then they're going to do terrible again. And then some days they're going to do a little bit better, and then they're going to do terrible again. And then something's going to trigger them, and then they're going to start crying again or be sad again. It is, even if it grates against your soul, being there for a child and realizing that same thing I say all the time, that your attention is more important than your advice. It is sitting with someone, it is being there with someone, it's never giving up on someone, it is always being patient with someone, it's always being kind to someone, and it's speaking truth to whatever they're saying when you can. So some kids that are like, I'm just depressed because I'm just like, I've had kids that are just like, I'm thinking of someone individual specifically, but I'm just fat, and I'm just not good, and no one really likes me, and I don't really have any friends, and I just suck at school. And it's all right, I can listen to that, right? Sometimes my attention is more important than my advice, and I just listen to that. And sometimes I got to go, bro, I just need to stop you right there, because you're lying, and I just want to make sure that we're not lying. That what we're saying we're doing here is finding our truth. But then when we're speaking lies, we got to stop, because you have B pluses in all of your classes, right? So let's just say right there that that's not a terrible student. A terrible student has a 3. A terrible student doesn't do homework. Not someone that does homework and gets some answers wrong because they tried and they failed, because they're still growing and becoming, because we're always becoming. That you're ugly, bro, I'm not, that's for you to figure out, but there's someone for everyone in the world. And what are you rating yourself against that you're deciding that you're ugly? When you say that no one likes you and that you don't have friends, you sit in here and have lunch with me every single day, and every day there's about 10 of us that talk about the same things every day and go around and we laugh and we care about each other. So I don't know that those are dudes you play Fortnite with out of school or you go play basketball with, but I'm just saying, in this circle, what do friends do? They sit around, they laugh about one another, they support one another, they help one another, they tease one another, and that's what we do. Looks like friends to me. So it's sometimes helping kids change the narrative, right? That's what's happening in most of us all the time. That's what happening is that limits teachers, that limits students, because we have this narrative in our head that I'm not that good, that I am too young, too short, I'm the wrong color, I teach in the wrong neighborhood, I don't have enough supplies, I don't have enough parental support, the kids don't like me, my dad always told me I was a failure, and so I probably am a failure, and I shouldn't be a math teacher anyway. And it's all that false bullshit that you're telling yourself in that narrative, that sometimes we need someone to stop us and call and speak truth to the lies that are being told. So I think those two things, and you can do that with love. It doesn't not have to be assertive, but it can be. It depends on the kid, right? I know the longer you teach, I feel like you become more intuitive as to who you can raise your voice with and who you'd never raise your voice with, who just needs love and affection all the time, and who needs to go, yo, not talking about it again. See what I'm saying? All right, thank you. I care about you. Don't do it again. I'm putting gum in your hair. It's that kind of thing that you can do with students. But I think, especially at 10, at such an impressionable age, it's just showing up and caring. It's finding ways for kids to connect. And it's helping kids navigate life, because it's damn hard to do. And like I said, you're playing a long game. I said this to someone earlier. Don't forget that at 10, that kid might not be all better by the end of the year. It might not be all better in 5th grade or 6th grade or 7th grade or senior year. But what you're doing is trying to plant seeds that will hopefully help students to develop somewhere, someplace. That thing is like a gift that it's time released, right? You don't know when it's going to go into effect, but giving kids the tools that they need is just really important. And so I would consider, even for special kids, I still follow up on kids. And I still have kids that come over. Romina brought me Krispy Kreme donuts the other day. Romina, who's, if you read the book, She wrote the foreword to my book. She hated me in 9th grade. Like, I think that's the first thing that she says in the foreword is, I hated Mr. Reynolds when I met him. And now she drives over to my house.
Now she watches our dog when we go on vacation and stays at our house.
Feeds my fish, like, brings me Krispy Kreme donuts on my birthday. Like, it is a long game that we're playing here, gang. And so I just think that that's important to remember that even in the midst of COVID, even in the midst of this 1 year that is, or year and a half that's going completely awry in education, it's going to be all right. Like, it's a year and a half, right? Like, how many kids in the world don't get any education for a year and a half and they still figure it out? Like, well, it'll be all right. We're talking long game, though. So, is that it? We're done? Gang, I appreciate you. Thanksgiving is coming up here in the United States, and I'm really thinking about gratefulness a lot today and how grateful I am for all of you. This week, can we say that this week will there be merch?
Yeah, there will be some. I'm not so sure. The clothing part is the hardest part.
We're having a hard time with clothing. Hoodies are like, we get them made in Germany is the only place that we can get them.
Let me explain this.
Go ahead.
So we want to do merch is like a drop ship company.
Merch, like this shirt right here.
And we're really particular. And
keep talking. I'm gonna just keep showing merch.
The sweatshirts that we want come from Europe, and because of COVID, we can't get those. So I want to be able to offer good stuff to people. So it's coming. We're like testing all these. Like a lot of these are gonna be up soon because. Yeah, but look at this one. I don't know if it was me or that. It's backwards. They did this one backwards. I don't. Yeah.
Get your class off travel mode.
So I'm working it out. I don't want to sell subpar products. I want a sweater. Yeah. Cool. Oh, great. So if you have things that you want, let me know because we can do anything. So Erica Whitechurch, I see you. I need a hoodie. Me too. Day of the Classroom. I want good quality hoodies though. I don't want cheap hoodies. But some of this other stuff will be on there hopefully this week. Like
hands on a stick.
I've got new stickers coming.
That's big. That's
Made in America. I'm trying. That's a big thing. And
so what we want is not just made in America, but also ethically
sourced materials
like and all that stuff.
All of that stuff is really important, which is really hard to do unless you have a boatload of money to put up front to work with.
So a lot of those things you have to pay like however much on the front end, so then you own it, and then you're shipping it out.
Versus a drop ship.
I live in a row home, so it's like the idea of having some things warehoused in my house is just not possible. So even if that doesn't happen now, that is ultimately the goal, but we need to make the money to be able to invest the money to be able to do the thing. And we're also partnering with like local companies, like people that are like making my hands on a stick, people that are making my microphones for me, people that are making
Dayla Classroom.
Shirts.
I'm gonna have the hand on the stick will be on the website literally by the end of this week. I have everything ready. I just have to get Edie's brother to throw it up there for me, but everything's ready. Those sort of things will be up very, very shortly within the week.
And then I saw the word infomercial. Someone said, then we will have an infomercial. Have I got a deal for you? Tired of walking down your aisles? I have a whole idea for like 1 million infomercials actually, but cool.
Yeah.
We good?
Yeah.
Gang, it's good to be back.
Have a great Thanksgiving,
There's
everybody.
some great questions. Yes, have a great Thanksgiving. If you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, have a great Thursday. And we will see you next week, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That's it.
Yep.
Peace.
Adios.
How do I turn this off? I forget every week. How am I so